Can you see Albertastan in there?
Yeah. So now maybe if you want to just tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, certainly. Well, my name's Andy Davies, and I'm an Alberta artist, and I have a project ongoing right now called Albertastan, which has to do with I'm setting up a tongue-in-cheek sort of comparison, I guess, of putting Alberta in with the other stands, Uzbekistan and so on, to beg the question, you know, what similarities might these places have in common, or what similarities might they have? Clearly, there's, you know, the differences are greater than the similarities, but I think most people would assume that there are no similarities whatsoever, and that's kind of what I'm trying to highlight, mostly just to initiate a conversation about Alberta and Alberta politics. I'm not really interested in whether the political system of Tajikistan exactly. We know our province, and so it's a question of how transparent is our own government, how democratic is Alberta versus how democratic we feel like, or we assume that it is. What role does the media play in that? Is the media complicit in sort of furthering the government's message, or is the media active, as media should be, in terms of being unbiased and as critical and investigative on the Alberta government as they would be on any other issue? So really that's what it comes down to: transparency, democracy, politics, and the media's role in it to boot. And certain examples come to mind, and one of them being a columnist by the name of Tom Olsen, who was a columnist for many years, and he then, after being a columnist for many years and being very pro-conservative in terms of his opinion column, he landed a job as, I believe, the assistant director of communications. I think it was actually at the legislature, not for the party, but I mean, he got the golden parachute, and there was no media storm at that moment saying, oh, clearly he's been a conservative guy the whole time. Otherwise, you don't land in that kind of parachute job afterwards. I mean, it's a massive reward, but in terms of sort of cronyism, that's a pretty big reward. That should make us, I mean, that could be one concrete example where you've got to wonder what kind of reporting he was doing all the way along.
And what kind of reception has your work gotten so far?
People are very interested. People have strong opinions about government. I would say that overwhelmingly it's been critical of the government, but the issues have been very diverse. The reasons, the things that matter to certain people over others. Healthcare's come up, Bill 50's come up in terms of landowners' rights. Today someone was talking about, who identified herself as a conservative voter, said that the conservative government, or the Conservative Party I should say, doesn't do much for the opposition. I mean, it sort of deliberately sidelines and quiets the opposition. And she's a conservative voter, and she felt that was unjust. Fixed election dates came up because there was discussion about there's either going to be a fall or a spring election. And if Ted Morton wins the leadership race, it'll likely be fall because that's better for him. If some of the others win, it'll likely be spring. Well, how does the opposition prepare for that when our dates are being catered to what's strategically beneficial for one member versus another, not just the party. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of thing where how do opposition parties reasonably prepare for the next election? So it's a massive benefit for being in power and staying in power. Mm-hmm. You know, set election dates are one of those things that if the Alberta government wanted to make the place more democratic, they would say the date's going to be here whether we're up or down in the polls. And then opposition parties are in the same position to plan for that date. I mean, it exists in other provinces. Harper brought it in and then broke his own law on that regard a few years back anyway. But in terms of fairness and fairness to the opposition, that's a pretty base benchmark, I guess, that you would never hear the Conservatives lobby for because it's not in their interest. So their interest is to maintain power, not to be empowering to the opposition in a very base level, not to level the playing field, actually.
And where do you plan to hang your work?
It'll actually appear next year at the Works here.
Okay.
This is the beginning of a body of work. And so my point of being here today is actually to listen to other people. I've got my own ideas, of course, which I'm happy to share. But the reason for coming out here, I've been here all week, is to get other people's input rather than to stand on my soapbox.
And have you had any really negative comments about it, or?
Not particularly. One gentleman didn't agree because he thought it was an affront to make this sort of comparison. But on many of the actual points, and my point isn't really that they're the same by any stretch, but on the points that we discussed, he conceded that sense of democracy isn't just a ballot in a box. That there are a whole bunch of pieces that make that an even playing field, that bring well-informed voters to the ballot box and create good opportunity for opposition parties to have a level playing field. So he didn't agree with my premise, my comparison, but on the points that I was trying to make, we agreed on as many as not.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.